Helen, thank you so much for joining me to tear up the Good Girl script today. If you cast your mind back to when you were growing up, which version of the Good Girl script do you remember hearing?
Thank you, Vina, and thank you for inviting me today. So, I think when I was growing up, the Good Girl script was everywhere. It's hard to say what was the most influential or pin down exactly where and when I heard it. It almost went in through osmosis. It was so ubiquitous. I suppose going back to school, I went to a convent school and was educated by nuns, need I say more? However, I suppose a distinct memory I have is from one of the most popular nuns sharing with a group of us. I would say we were probably 15 or 16 at the time. And she told us, if you want to be a nun, have your fun first. So it was quite clear to me, which I thought was very open-minded, quite clear to me that clearly within the Good Girl script, there were exceptions, even if you took holy orders. Another influence for me growing up and still was my mother. Although my mother is quite conformist in many ways, she was a real pioneer in her career and followed her own path. She had a successful career, brought up 5 children, juggling it all. With lots of help, of course, and a supportive husband. But that was quite frowned upon at the time. So I think although conformist, she was happy to tear up that script. So those are kind of earlier memories that I have.
Particularly, I mean, the nun, you know, that's such a wonderfully sort of spicy comment to make. That's fabulous. I could sort of see a nun in her habit saying that. And with regards to your mother, that pioneering sense and the sense of being able to conform, but also to make her own way. I think one of the things I'm really keen to do is to tell more stories like that, because the truth is that there are many women like your mum who have done that. And I think it's important to paint that picture more often, to hold up those role models so they become more visible. I think, one of the challenges for women is that if we feel that we're constantly having to break new ground, which we are, that can feel like really hard going. But if we recognize that there have been many who have gone before us who have paved the path in many ways, it becomes a lot easier.
Absolutely right, Vina. It's about having that hand held out to us from past generations and us holding that hand out to the generations to come. Otherwise, we're going to get trapped in a sort of circle of having to constantly reinvent and constantly push back these barriers. So yes, in terms of tearing up the Good Girl script, let's hope we don't have to do it from generation to generation and that we'll be the last people to have had to do that.
So if you think about your professional career so far, which has been fantastically, varied, and a lot of it has been in public life, you've done some very unusual things. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you have overcome?
Well, I'm sure there are many, but I'm a pragmatic optimist. So I see hurdles really as something that makes me more successful. They're there to leap over without looking back. And I always just say leap and learn. So that's my view about hurdles, professionally or otherwise.
That's a great image of leaping over, because every time we leap, we build strength. I mean, if I'm, of course, a dancer, so I'm thinking of it physically, that every time you make that leaping motion, you build core strength, you build muscular strength, and you build your trust, your ability to trust your own capacity.
I do think as well, Vina, that it's the leap and learn, because when we do hit those hurdles or those challenges, or as I prefer, opportunities, it's important to learn each time so that we perhaps will face them in a different way next time and be more prepared to go forwards. But I am very much about looking forwards and not backwards.
Lovely. What are your top 3 tips for other women to help them tear up the Good Girl script?
Well, I've probably got so many, but you're limiting me to 3, Vina, so here goes. I think first and foremost, be true to yourself. And along with that, don't worry about what other people think of you. In my early days of running my own consultancy business, I had a client who was a very successful author, and her advice was, don't, I suppose really, what others think of us is none of our business. So it really is, don't pay attention to others. I mean, that's really been a maxim for me since. What others think of us is none of our business. And when you think about that, it's actually quite profound, but also very interesting. So that would be a top tip, be true to yourself. Also, particularly for many of the women I know, it's about really don't be a people pleaser. Learn how to say no. Yes, say it with charm and with tact, but don't take on every task. Learn how to say no. And that's so important, because otherwise we just don't have time for ourselves and all the important things that we want to achieve. Another maxim I live by through another friend who's an actor, who has said, don't take that rejection personally. So alongside not being a people pleaser, it's also about, if you get rejected in business, don't dwell on it, just move forwards. My actor friend says, if they're looking for someone tall and you're not, you won't get the part. It's nothing personal. So I really apply that to my business life as well. And I think that's really important for us all.
Wonderfully practical.
Yeah, I think it's, it's just a good way of, well, in life and in business. And if you ask me for a third, I kind of think it would also be creating a trusted peer group around oneself. People who share our vision, like-minded people, women and men, people from all cultures, all backgrounds, all sectors, as diverse as possible, to get those different viewpoints. And sharing together, sharing that vision and working together is just so powerful. And it's really the key to all of the success that I've achieved, is that teamwork. So I suppose finally I would say collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. That would be my maxim.
Brilliant. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Helene.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Veena, and thank you for the time. I'm honoured to be invited. Thank you.